Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Take 10. We come to you every week with a look at a variety of mental health and related issues as they impact caregiving and caregivers. I'm Ron Aaron, along with our co-host, Dr. Jamie Huysman. Dr. Huysman is Chief Compassion Officer at WellMed Medical Management. He is a specialist in not only social entrepreneurship, advocacy, and innovation, but is well known nationwide for his work with caregivers and addictions. Carol Zernial, our other co-host, holds a master's degree in social gerontology, 30 years experience in the field. She's the co-chair of the Raise Family Caregiving Advisory Council and executive director of the WellMed Charitable Foundation. And Dr. Jamie, you came up with a very interesting and timely topic for us to focus on today, powerlessness. A lot of people are feeling it, whether you're a caregiver or not. Talk to us about that.
You know, Ron and Carol, this was a perfect forum. Unfortunately, I want to keep everybody away if I can about politics, but it was the politics that literally initiated this conversation inside of me to talk about powerlessness of caregivers with you. As I read the newspapers, and obviously news is coming to us fast and furiously, and without, looking at the politics of this and how many people voted for who, and did we want this particular sort of energy to be something we have to read every day in the newspaper, like powerless over people going to churches or losing, maybe questions of citizenship or caregivers' powerlessness and what can I do with mom or my dad? All these things are, the serenity prayer, which is grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference is something I really wanted to do today, kind of as a conversation piece. Yes, it was the newspapers that drove me. And yes, it was also the fact that I have a charity that deals with toxic, abusive relationships and people are scratching their head why. But the serenity prayer, and I leave the prayer part out because I want to keep this secular, grant me that serenity. We can't change what we're watching. Yes, we could have voted. Maybe we could have changed then, but we can't change what we're watching. But what can we change as caregivers? What can we change as people? We can change our response. And I think that's what we need to talk about today.
Well, I think you bring a really good point because powerlessness lives in the caregiving space where we're watching someone with Alzheimer's, we're watching someone with cancer, and we can't change that. And we feel frustrated and powerless. So what's a first step? If we're feeling like we can't control it, we can't change it, then what do we do?
That's the serenity prayer. Again, I call it a prayer because the fellowships of AA and NA called it that. Today, I use it for trauma work, and we remove the prayer part because we're not necessarily turning our lives over to a power greater than ourselves. In the trauma world, we're taking our recovery back. Literally the concept of authenticity. So we must understand that Category 5 hurricanes that in Texas, I hate to say this, guys, when you lost your electricity in the grid, things that happen and go bump in the night that we read about and we have to pay the price about, it's really something that we can't change. We can't change a Category 5 coming. We can batten down the houses. We can call our friends up. We can go to the shelters. And I think what caregivers need to take away today, this concept of powerlessness, is we're not powerless over the fact that we can take care of ourselves in a way that as these things come at us, and they come at us fast and furiously, whether it's the news, whether it's our loved one with a chronic or terminal acute illness, how do we respond? How do we take care of ourselves? How do we handle this information coming ourselves? And that to me is a direct sort of active role that we have to lean in, take care of ourselves, and build up a bank account of resilience. And that to me is the only thing we can do around the concept of powerlessness.
Hold that thought. We'll come right back. I want to let folks know who may have just joined us. You're listening to Take 10. We come to you every week with a look at a variety of mental health and related issues and challenges facing caregivers and care recipients. I'm Ron Aaron, along with Carol Zernial and Dr. Jamie Huysman, and we're talking about the concept of powerlessness. So, Dr. Jamie, you mentioned build up a bank of resilience. What does that mean? Break that down so we understand.
Well, it's pretty easy, and I'll make it in non-psychobabbly terms. So it's a good question, Ron. I always love how you hold my feet to the fire. So listen, if we need money for rent, right? What do? We go to the bank, we hope, but we hope the bank has money there. Otherwise, we lose our house, right? We put money into the bank, it develops interest. It's always there, we hope, when we need it. And we need it for crises. We need it for times of our children needs to get something paid at school, whatever it is. We need it for electricity. Same is true in powerlessness with caregivers, and same is true in developing resilience inside of us as caregivers. Now, people think we only should go to psychiatrists, psychologists, social workers, myself, geriatric care managers when things are going bad, right? For intervention. Oh yeah, let's just go and have crisis stabilization. Well, the bank account is best used for our emotional health and our ability to respond to things properly when things are going okay, when our insight is okay, when we're not in the middle of crises. So my suggestion is, yes, if you build up and go see a good therapist, or even more, I think, go to one of Carol's amazing caregiver SOS or groups of people. That's the time you start putting into the bank account sort of a resilience, so that when all hell breaks loose, and I'm looking at the newspaper this week, and that's how it inspired the story. How do I go to my bank account of resilience and be able to handle the news? And that means we have to prepare ourselves on an ongoing basis and not simply wait for crises to build up that emotional bank account.
So, Carol, for those who don't know, what is the Caregiver SOS program?
Well, with the Caregiver SOS, we have in-person support groups. We have online training for stress management. We have our caregiver teleconnection, education, and support. So at caregiversos.org, caregivers can find a listing of all of the programs that we offer at no cost.
And let me add to you too, Ron, but Carol's always too humble, because I remember many years ago we started the charity. I ran a charity at the same time, and nobody could run a charity better than Carol. Carol, I do tip my hat to that. It's in Viewpoint. You can play it 100 times over. But what Carol's saying is something that she's not telling you and me, is that this is the development of resilience. Somebody going to a caregiver SOS group, learning from the person next to them, just co-regulating, not to handle this by themselves, isolated. Okay, caregiver SOS group builds resilience. And that's what we need more than anything as we look at powerlessness, being powerlessness over things around us, is how do we develop resilience? And so I think that's why I love Caregiver SOS and the work that the WellMed Charitable Foundation does, is allows us to develop resilience. And in my group, at my trauma group, the development recovery from trauma is, guess what? It's the development of resilience. That's all it is.
Well, Jamie, I'm curious, in the days where I feel powerless, I've been talking recently about looking at my feet, where I'm going, looking up at the person in front of me and deciding, there's a person in front of me. What can I do to help them? Or if I'm looking in the mirror, what can I do for me? Just in terms of being able to feel like I have control over something.
Well, the people that you actually are looking at, paying it forward people. I know you all too well, Carol. I love you dearly, but I know you're an amazing caregiver for both your mom and for your dad. And so you probably, a senior vice president of WellMed, who runs a charity, also sees your patients as you. Okay, there, but for the grace of God go I. And so whether you're looking in a mirror, you're looking at a caregiver, you know what to do, because why? You've done it for yourself. And that's why I want to mention to every caregiver out there, if you're feeling powerless for any particular reason whatsoever, to know oneself and to go through this is to develop a resilience and to know the world. And so looking in that mirror or paying it forward for the person in front of you, that is also development of resilience, and it gets us out of our own heads. And so I'm glad you said that.
Is overcoming powerlessness taking control?
Yes, it is. Yes and no. It is surrendering to the fact that you're powerless over what's coming at you. And let's say what you read in the paper today, and whether that's, people being torn from families or immigration or not, or a hurricane coming your way. But there is a surrender of what you can do and what you can't do. And there should never be a surrender of building our own resilience and building our own selves and going to Caregiver SOS or doing breath work or meditation or doing what you do so well, Carol, which is develop resilience in seniors.
Bingo. Got to stop you right there. Dr. Jamie. Carol Zernial, I'm Ron Aaron. We'll talk with you again soon right here on Take 10.